I'm sure that every day you wake up just absolutely looking forward to the idea of shuffling off to your wage slave job just to barely make ends meet in a meaningless world occupied by the worst kinds of people imaginable and run by corporate overlords even amidst the end of the world. Right? I'm just kidding, of course you're not looking forward to that. Nobody does. Not many people would really be concerned about the state of their customer service job if a deadly virus sprung up out of nowhere and threatened to wipe out all primates on the planet. And they especially wouldn't care about the corporation or the rich dude who they worked for. But then again, there genuinely are some weirdos out there. Some people like feet and armpits. But that's effectively what today's anime, Apocalypse Hotel, is about. No, not the feet part, the part before that. As the story goes, humanity, threatened by the emergence of a lethal virus, flees to space in hopes of escaping certain doom, leaving behind all of their creations and their home. And amid the remains of civilization abandoned by humanity 100 years ago, one place remains in operation: the Galaxy Tower Hotel. Okay, so humanity is gone, like completely out of the picture. So who exactly is the cast that this is all centered around? Well, it's exactly who you'd expect, actually. Robotic hotel staff, a humanoid robot girl, a few problematic guests who drift in from time to time, a sentient cannon, the destroyer of worlds, and a tanuki loli with a penchant for WMDs. This show is one that really didn't impress me with the first few episodes. I actually kind of struggled with them. I also hadn't really felt like I wanted to check this out in the first place when the season started, but things change. Episodes 1 and 2 basically followed the main character, Yachio, around as she performed her duties as head bitch in charge of the hotel in a world devoid of any signs of civilization outside of the ruins that are continuing to be foliaged over around them. Episode 2, however, introduced us to what would soon become the main theme of the series, as an extraterrestrial entity arrived on their front door and hung around for quite some time. In all this time, there were only 3 characters who actually spoke anything coherently, and one was hardly in the show whatsoever, and the other didn't show up until episode 2. It wasn't until episode 3 that I really started to like this anime, the episode where the Tanukians are finally introduced. They start off their debut by trying to impersonate humans, only to realize they did not need their disguises and quickly became problematic guests who ran amok until Yachio finally decided she had enough of them. Aside from our main character crashing out, I loved this episode because we were introduced to my personal favorite character in this entire series up to this point. Ponko, the aforementioned Tanuki loli, whose childishness would trick you into thinking she was some silly kid, when in actuality she's basically a kid who knows way too much about how to end the world. She's just mature enough to be written in a way that the story needs, but just childish enough to also make it fun. In her fears of losing her new home, just like she did her own homeworld, she's driven to some very interesting points, even taking up a chainsaw to fight what is effectively a dune sandworm. Look, I won't say the show is the most fantastic of the season, but it certainly does have a plethora of charms, and that's enough to make me glad that my chat recommended it to me one Saturday night about a month ago. It's largely a very relaxing series centered on the idea of life on post-apocalyptic Earth, with some interestingly intense moments centered around alien infestations and this world's version of Beerus the Destroyer showing up on their doorsteps scattered throughout it. And for a show that didn't need to really dedicate a lot of time or resources to a singular fight that took up maybe a fraction of an episode, the effort was still made to take that one scene seriously enough to make it one of the better looking fights of the season up to this point. So I wouldn't call it a cozy anime. It's largely wholesome in the way it portrays even the most irksome characters having some level of good quality to them overall, as evident by the fact that the Tanuki family hangs around to help with the hotel after feeling like a bunch of freeloaders and pissing Yachiro off. Polka especially goes out of her way to become a staff member simply to repay Yachio for all the trouble her family caused. It's often mildly comedic, which helps with the fun, well animated and illustrated to make it visually appealing, and a series that, though its writing probably could be a bit more dramatic, exudes the passion and dedication of a creator who really enjoys what they make and takes that creation seriously. That is to say that, although it isn't one of my favorite series, nor is it the most perfect of the season, there's a lot to like about it, and a level of competence about how it's being handled that endears me to it. I enjoy watching this, because every episode feels like a new adventure with a group of characters who are well enough written that I can like them in spite of their early flaws. There isn't a persistent annoyance about them, and the series thrives because it decides to have certain turnarounds rather quickly instead of dragging them on. Its unserious way of handling serious issues is something I might have normally had as a point of critique, but this time around happened to be the reason I generally enjoyed it so much. So if you have not checked it out, I do recommend Apocalypse Hotel, because it's a fun anime.